promoting businesses and organizations to help them reach their full potential. Lighten the path to the success of your business. Enhancing the lives of our listeners by talking about things that matters most. Helping you to shine your light emotionally, mentally, spiritually, socially, and physically. Spreading positive vibes. You've got it locked and you're listening to Light Vibrations, brought to you by Lyte Communications right here on CBN Radio 90.9 FM. And now your host and our director, Natasha Letza.
Hello, you've got it locked and you're listening to Light Vibrations, here chilling with me, Tasha T, aka Roxy, bringing you another edition of Word on the Street. Today we have our guest with us, Mrs. Jacqueline Archibald Sylvester, here to delight us with our presence. Welcome, Mrs. Sylvester.
Thank you, Roxy.
Tell us, what do you want to talk about today?
I want to share with the public on the topic of brain aneurysm, and it's a medical condition, a deadly medical condition, and so I'm here to inform the public and educate the public in the event that somebody suffers from this situation, like I did.
Awesome. Well, we welcome this level of information and knowledge, because here on Light Vibration we seek to educate, empower, and enlighten, and we all know that knowing is half the battle. So we welcome your story. So tell us a little bit about your story and what compelled you to share this information today.
All right. I think first of all we should start by explaining what a brain aneurysm is. And this medical situation is a bulge or ballooning in a blood vessel in the brain, and it often looks like a berry hanging on a stem. That's the situation. In 2016, a few days leading up to the 24th of August, I was experiencing some slight headaches. Normally I don't have headaches, so they were a cause for concern. And I went to the doctor and was placed on some painkillers, medication. When the pain comes on, I will take the tablets and the pain will go away, but they persisted. And the 24th of August, I left work and went home to pick up my daughter. And when drove in the driveway, parked the Jeep, came out, and that was the last thing I remembered. When I came to, my dog was lapping my face, and there was this intense headache. It's as if someone was chiseling away at my head, an excruciating pain. And I was vomiting. Then I was also feeling this pain from the back of my neck, way down in my back, as if somebody is like beating me in the back, this serious pain. Anyway, I was taken to the doctor, and they did some scans, and nothing was found. Right, and I was placed on a few days sick leave with medication to sort of help the pain, because nothing was found that I had actually suffered an aneurysm. When I went back to work, a few days after, I found that I was having problems keeping my right eye open, because when I fell down and when I had passed out, when I came through, my right eye is as if I was seeing 1,000 pieces, like broken glass in my right eye. It wasn't. I wasn't seeing straight from my right eye, so I was having problems keeping it open when I went back to work. I went to the eye specialist to do some checks because I wanted to know what was happening. She said she didn't find anything. One friend suggested that I visit this doctor. Went to the doctor, and on closer observation, he said something was going on and it needed further tests. So he suggested that I see this ENT by Bougainville Hospital, and I went there, and two brain scans later showed that I actually suffered a brain aneurysm.
Wow. Now, at this point, having been to multiple doctors, have taken multiple tests and I mean your own fears and anxiety associated with not really knowing what was wrong. When they gave you that news, what was your reaction?
Oh man, I was in shock because I had known what the situation was because I have a former co-worker who suffered a brain aneurysm, and her situation was that they had to actually go inside her head and fix her situation. So it was, I knew what it was. I knew it was deadly, and I was really frightened, but I decided to try and remain calm because one doctor told me that I have to give the brain less work to do. Even when I went to use the bathroom, don't force myself, just try and remain calm. You can't give the brain excess work to do, because my situation was that my brain aneurysm was not ruptured, meaning that it didn't burst. Had it burst, the situation might have been different because from my reading and from what has been explained to me, when it bursts, the blood fills up the empty spaces in the brain, and you could die. You could have a stroke, a massive stroke, and you could die. So that was what I was facing. But I was thankful that mine actually didn't rupture. So there was still hope. But the issue was with my eye. My right eye had completely closed. If I wanted it to open, I had to open it myself. And when you open it, there was this bright glare coming from the eye. So that was it for me.
So after that, now after your initial shock, what was the advice of the doctors and what did you do after that?
Well, the next step was treatment because the operation is not done in the BVI. So I had to go abroad through NHI and the government, NHI HEMA Hospital in Puerto Rico. There's where I went and did 2 surgeries. But I could recall when I went there the Friday because I was told that I was to come there to meet the doctor for some observation or something like that. And when I went there, there were like 20 or 30 doctors and nurses waiting for me, and I'm like, what's the big deal? I thought I was just coming for an observation, and they're like, no, we're going to operate on you today. Yes, she said, what's going on in your head? You could die. And she said, you're too young to die, so we're going to do the operation today. I didn't have much clothes or anything like that, but you know what I mean, when you want to live, you want to live. So everything was done, the preparation and so on and so forth, and they did all their tests, took me to the operating theater, and hours later I heard somebody calling me, Jacqueline, wake up, we're done. There was the first operation, and she's like, oh, everything is fine. We were able, I think they blocked off the area where the blood was going to, and they stuffed it with coils, and the operation was done from my thigh. So they sent a camera up with their instruments from my thigh way up past my heart, way up in my head.
Wow.
And fixed the situation up there. So they blocked it out. They put coils in that area. So she said blood would never go back to that spot. As long as I'm alive, blood would never go back there. So the area was blocked off with a stent or something like that, and they filled that the blockage with coils. So, and in 2 days, my right eye that was closed, it just opened back up on itself. It blocked, and she was even, the doctor was even surprised. Yes, she was surprised, like, oh my God, the eye is actually open. It was just closed, and
so did they think that the eye was there?
No, but what she explained happened. She said that the blood needed somewhere to go, and because of the fact that it didn't rupture, so it didn't flow in the areas of the brain, so it was just there as a bulge resting behind the eye, and I thank God because in a situation, had it been worse, it probably might have pushed the right eye out.
Of the socket?
Yes,
Wow.
it could have done that.
Wow.
But thank God it worked out the way that it did.
Well, Jacqueline, I know that you're a woman of faith, a great faith. How did your spirituality impact this process for you? And do you think that it gave you that the courage to face uncertainty during that time?
Well, I know the God I serve, Roxy. I know the God I serve. And when that thing happened to me, I mean, although I'm mortal, so I'll be frightened, but I talked to God and I explained to him my situation. I have 2 kids, and I told him I really would love to be around to see them grow up because, with all those things. So I had faith, and I talked to him and I explained to him and I said, thank you, Father. I know you're gonna pull me through this. Let your will be done. Even the Friday I was leaving, and I had this Facebook post, and I was telling people, all will be well. Don't worry about me. All will be, because I just had a feeling. I just felt comforted. I felt comforted, and even though when I was on the operating table, and they were telling me to sign this. This means that you could wake up without part of you not working. You could have a stroke. You could die, and there was so that the hospital would not be liable to any lawsuits or anything like that. And I just signed away because I felt comforted. I felt like there was this presence right there with me, right there, and I felt good. And normally they would say that you have to have somebody there with you. My aunt came like a few days after, so I was there by myself, but God was there with me too. I knew he would have pulled me through, so I really didn't worry. Even one my HEMA assistant, she was the one who was helping me to get all my paperwork ready and so on. She was like, but you're always smiling, you're not worried. I said, no, I'm not worried. I knew what was happening in my head. I knew that the possibility existed that I could have died. I could have had a stroke, because I have read of cases where people have died. People have had stroke. They have to learn to walk again, learn to talk again, and all that. And I was able to get up and walk and talk. Thank God for his mercies.
I telling you. And really being on lookout, because I was seeing some of the posts and stuff that you were making, and basically speaking out of what was happening to you, and all the positivity and all the prayers that you receive, as a result. I think it's like a spiritual connection, really, and I think positivity has a lot to do with healing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, positivity. I mean, you don't throw your hands up in despair, and you might hear that today you have been diagnosed with cancer, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. God is still in the healing process. You understand? If you honestly pray, you honestly approach God in prayer, he will heal you. And I had that faith. I had that faith that I would have been healed. He has done it in the past, so why not me? Why not me? You just pray. You pray, and there was a lot of prayers, as you just mentioned, went up for me too. So I knew God he wasn't done with me yet. So I was happy. I was able to have the first operation and the second I had 2 operations actually. I had a second operation, and I'm fine. I'm back to normal. Everybody's like, but you had a brain aneurysm. Oh yeah, I had a brain aneurysm. It's deadly. Normally when that happens, they give you 50-50. You could die or you could live, and I am living, and I'm thanking God every day, and I'm just praying and asking him to help me to be what he really wants me to be, but I'm thankful. I am living in gratitude every day.
Amen. So how has life changed for you, after that situation? Take us back to that first surgery, and you woke up and then your faculties started coming back to you one at a time. What was the advice of the doctor? What was the possibility of having a reoccurrence? How did you move forward? I don't know, maybe looking at your health, or looking at some of the lifestyle activities that may or may not have an impact later on in life.
Okay, well, from what I've read, this situation normally comes on if you have a history of high blood pressure or stress, when you have a lot of stress in your life. I don't travel with high blood pressure, but I was going through a stressful period in my life. So I don't know if that probably was a contributing factor. So following the operations, I was advised by the doctors I have to keep my blood pressure normal. I can't drink alcohol, and avoid stressful situations. So it has taught me a lot, because it's like you come face to face with your mortality when you experience something like this. You understand? It's either you live or you die, and that was a really awakening point for me to realize that I've reached this point in my life. And like I said, I always give God a praise for keeping me, for showing me, because I could have died, Natasha. I could have died. And I thank him and I give him all the praise, and I try to live a good life. I try to live in peace with people. I now appreciate my children, really appreciating them, not loving them more, because you realize that your time on this earth is really limited. It's really limited, and I'm just full of faith. And I also I want to encourage persons who might be suffering from these life-threatening illnesses, that all is not lost. All is not lost. You don't throw your hands up in despair and start wallowing in self-pity. And because I had it and I was still functioning, I was still just mean that I wasn't able to do certain things. But then I guess it all boils down to the faith that I had and still have. That is what was able to carry me through this whole episode.
And I think that this topic is something that is is really spoken of, and I know for myself that the other day when I had a headache, I flashed on you and I was like, I wonder. So it's good that you came on the program today to share with us your experience. It's great that you educate us about some of the symptoms and what you experienced. Do you by any chance know of any other symptoms associated with brain aneurysm, so that we could maybe a little bit broaden the scope of some of the characteristics, so people will know what else they could look out for?
Okay, well, it's like I said before, it's a severe headache and follows by a pain above the right eye, right above the forehead there, the right eye. There's where it normally occurs, and you have a change in vision. So that's why I had double vision when I had the when it affected me. I couldn't see from my right eye, right? And numbness. Sometimes you have numbness on the side of your face, vomiting. You just feel weak in the body and stuff like that. And the headache out of this world. It's the worst headache. If you've read up on brain aneurysm, everybody would tell you is that headache that is out of this world. So they have to look forward to these things and those slight hit, because leaving it unattended, you could die.
And one of the other key things that I noted while you were speaking was your tenacity in finding out what the problem was. I know sometimes, we might have pains or, certain discomforts in about our bodies, and, we're like, okay, we go get some bush, or, it's gas. We love to blame gas. I don't
yeah.
know why. That's a Caribbean thing that just need to be stopped. Every pain you have, you want to attribute it to gas. And you were tenacious in the fact that you went to different specialists. You sought many different opinions. What impact do you think that had on really unveiling what was going on and the fact that you're still here today?
Yeah, if I understood what was happening. The fact that I went on, like I said earlier, I knew what a brain aneurysm was because this former co-worker had it.
No, before you got diagnosed that was a problem, you went to different doctors, you went to the eye specialist, you were tenacious about figuring out what was wrong.
Okay.
And I was saying, do you think that was the impetus really behind of you being diagnosed and, ultimately being here today?
Yes, because had I left it alone, well, it's just a headache. The turnout might have been different, but it was unusual. I don't have headaches like that, even though I have a slight headache at some point. It goes away, but this one was persistent every time. At one point, they even put me on morphine because it was there. It just was not going away, and I'm like, my God, what is happening? What is happening? So I guess it was a build up until the actual event, which knocked me out completely, So, but I read up, and after I found out, it was an aneurysm, then is when I started really thoroughly reading and finding. So I knew all the symptoms. I knew what was happening to me, because just what the symptoms were is what I was experiencing. So I knew it was a brain aneurysm that I had. So that's why it's important, and it's important for us to read too. You don't just read up on something when it affects you. It's important for you to read and do a lot of reading on various issues. So in the event that you find that your body start responding in a similar fashion, maybe you probably could have an idea that this might be happening to me, and you have more information to give to your doctor when you go for when you go to have the situation addressed.
And like you said, you had to seek care in Puerto Rico, and there's a lot of issues and talk regarding NHI and having to seek out of state care. How was that for you in terms of your surgery, and how was that process for you?
Well, it was my first time dealing with the NHI. It was, I wouldn't want to call it lengthy, but I had to wait because the specialists from Hema Hospital in Puerto Rico, they come here every month. So I had to wait for about like a month with that thing in my head. I had to wait for them to come, and they came, and then the process started rolling. Even the specialist who did the surgery, Dr. Gonzalez, she was out of state. I think she was on vacation somewhere in the States. So I had to wait until she came back. So I am grateful to NHI, because had it not been for them, I don't know what I would have done. So I'm grateful for the part they played, in helping me to go abroad and get that surgery done, because it's not offered at the People's Hospital.
So I'm glad you had a wonderful experience. And moving forward, do you still have to do any checkups? Is a brain aneurysm still a worry for you, or that's completely off the table now? You could feel comfortable that is not an issue you would have to worry about in the future.
Well, I went back there in 2017, where they went back to the brain, and the doctor said they found everything is fine. She said it looks like a brand new brain. Nice. Thank God for that. So I'm happy for that. But I have also read up that they do reoccur sometimes in some cases. They do reoccur, but I have placed it all in God's hands, because I really do not want to go back through that situation again. But so far so good.
And before I let you go, how did that experience impact your family? I know that they would have been there, through it all, seeing the up, seeing the down, seeing the worry, seeing that, concern. How did it impact the children, and what lessons were learned coming out of that experience?
Well, my children, they were saying, "But mommy, you're not sick," because it's not like a cut that they could see. So they didn't know, they didn't get the full grasp of what was really happening, So I had to educate my son and even my daughter to some extent that, I might not look sick, but stuff is going on in my brain, so you have to operate differently. But other than that, they were helpful. I missed them because I had to go away for 2 weeks. I think I spent in Puerto Rico, where I had to leave them. Well, their father was with them, and I'm trying to maintain contact with them and all that. But it's quite an experience. It is, because it's like not knowing, like what you're walking in the wilderness. That is how I look at it. You're walking in the wilderness by yourself because stuff is happening in your head, and you do not have any control over it. You have absolutely no control. And that's the frightening part. But I think when you have faith in God and you rest it in His hands and you say, "Father, let your will be done," it all works out well in the end. Yes, it does.
Wonderful. Last thing before you go, the very last thing, tips or advice moving forward for people who may not have suffered, what you have suffered, but people who are managing issues that they may not know what it is. What are some of the advice that you can share to help them to, get that impetus to seek for the medical attention or to really get to the bottom of what ails them?
I believe that they should visit their doctors regularly, and it's just not it is not about just a brain aneurysm alone. I think you go and do your checks. Women, do your mammograms, do your pap smears. Don't just allow sickness to just come on you just like that. I was experiencing the headaches. That's why I went to the doctor, because I know it's not normal. You have to get to know your body. It's important that you get to know your body. You're having these headaches. Where are they coming from? There has to be some source of the headaches. Even though you might be going through a stressful situation or anything like that, and you notice things start happening, you act on them, because sometimes when you leave it unattended, you end up and you die. You end up and you die. So I am happy that I was able to follow up on my situation, which unfortunately led to the brain aneurysm. And I try and practice self-care in terms of taking care of myself. Don't be stressed out, keeping my blood pressure level low, and just living life comfortably, and serve God and try to give whatever advice I could give to people in terms of taking care of themselves.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for coming on the program today and sharing with us your story and inspiring our audience to take care of their health. You've been listening to Lyte Vibrations. I'm your host, Tasha T, aka Roxy, where we seek to enlighten, empower, and educate. Thank you for tuning in.
You've been listening to Lyte Vibrations, brought to you by Lyte Communications. Lyte Communications, your one-stop shop for all of your communications and marketing needs. From conception to completion, we offer the entire communications package. Choose Lyte for reach, results, and reliability. We have over 15 years experience, and we offer an array of services guaranteed to enhance your reach and increase your market presence. To showcase your business or organization on our program, contact Natasha Letsum at natasha@lytecommunications.com or via WhatsApp or telephone at 284-545-7355 to secure your package today. Community-minded individuals with knowledge in finance, health, business, relationships, spirituality, fitness, agriculture, healthy living, parenting, or any other topic that can enhance the lives of our community, are also encouraged to contact Ms. Letson to organize an interview. Thank you for tuning in to Lyte Vibration, and don't forget to tune in this time next week as we continue to bring you life-changing information. Until next time, shine your light.